From Pop the Trunk Sports, this is CH on the Pass and Screen Away podcast. I'm chilling with Rory Patterson tonight, a.k.a. Big Peasy, a.k.a. I get buckets at any age. How we doing?
That's a great introduction. Thank you, buddy. Hey, man, before we get too far down the road, I want to give a shout-out to my buddy, Andrew Birch. It's a tough day for him. He lost his mother and his grandma in a fatal swoop in a car accident. So I wanted to give a lot of love to his family and just let him know that we're thinking about him. But anyways, what did you want to talk about tonight, buddy?
A great shout-out to Andy. Let's get right into it. Let's get into this Memphis Golden State series. It's been crazy, man. Who do you think's winning this?
Oh, man, this has been a great series so far. It's been kind of weird, though. It's kind of been like the first game I was like, okay, Golden State, they're really going to do this. And then the game 2 and 3, I mean, obviously because of the wins and the losses, but just the way the games flowed and the way everything went.
Golden State's way game 1.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then game 2 and game 3, it was like, Memphis just felt like they could do anything they wanted. And then game 4, Steph really got hot and he started to play like, otherworldly MVP basketball. But my pick for this series is Golden State. I think they're going in 7. That's my pick. What about you? What do you think?
I like Memphis. I've been tooting Memphis's horn all playoffs, and I was feeling really good after Game 3. And then Steph Curry came out and balled Game 4, had me going, damn. But with no Tony Allen tonight's game either, even though, they got enough firepower to win games without Tony Allen. But it's definitely going to be a huge loss for him.
Well, just for the perimeter defense.
Yeah, he's
a premier.
Just a force physically, and he just imposes his will on whoever he's guarding, and he's a good cutter, and he wills his way to a couple J's every once in a while, but you don't want him shooting J's for sure. But he's definitely gonna be missed tonight.
Yeah, totally agree. Especially when you have basically the best backcourt in the NBA on the opposition with Steph and Clay, because Tony usually, to me, Clay hasn't had a great series yet. He's had a couple good games. Like last game was okay.
Yeah.
But he had a really bad game too. And Tony Allen is just on him. You can't stop both of them though. And then Steph just wasn't hitting. Game 2 and 3. But I wanted to get right into it. I feel like the Warriors win this series, but then LA, if they win their series, I feel like LA and Warriors. I feel like LA can beat them.
Really? What? I like Golden State in that series. If that was to happen, even though I'm picking Memphis. I'm still strong on them. I just think over 7 games, they can impose their will. And in a Game 6 or a Game 7, they can win anywhere. So, it's definitely looking tough now with Golden State. If they win tonight, it's a must win after that. So Memphis definitely has their work cut out for them, but I still think they can get it done. But if it had to be Golden State Clippers, I think Golden State just can score a little easier than the Clippers can. And I know our missing running mate always preaches with the Clippers and Rocky saying, they just play too slow. But and Golden State scores so easy with all their depth. You figure they can overcome a 7-game series of that. But right now, the Clippers are playing like the best team in the NBA right now.
Well, that's why I'm saying it. It's kind of like fantasy playoffs. It's like, okay, you have this great team all year. But
do you know who won this year?
I can't remember. CH won both of our leagues. It's ridiculous. But anyways, you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's just that reminder. Who is playing the best ball at the right time? And I just feel like Blake Griffin has gone to that next level. Everyone knows it. It's visible. It's in the stat sheet. He's bringing it. Like, he plays as hard as anybody, as he always has. But now it just feels a little more controlled.
Yeah, the game seems to slow down for him. He really passes well 5-6 times a game. And then he just slowed down. If he doesn't take that mid-range J, that he can hit now, but he can still put the ball on the floor and make plays for somebody else. So it's been a huge bonus to his game.
Well, to me, like the way he's shooting his J right now too, it's not necessarily that's going in, but the ones he's taking, he's kind of like the release valve for him. He's not like, hey, I'm proving to you that I can shoot a J. What he's doing is when it's there, he's taking it and he's hitting it. And so that's what I like about what he's been doing lately compared to like when in the past, I feel like he was always trying to prove how good his J was. And now it's just like, like if, and Charles Barkley keeps saying it, like if he sees a big guy in front of him, he's going to try and go past him. If he sees, he's going to try and, shoot over him or be quick. If he's got, a smaller guy, he's going to bang him, and I think he's just making that right decision almost every time.
And you can really run your offense through him now, even when the Clippers didn't have Chris Paul game 1 in Houston, no problem. Fresh off a San Antonio Spurs victory, they came in and got it done and really set the tone for that entire series. Hey, we don't even have our best player, and we can still beat you at your house, you know? And it kind of just laid the woodwork down for the Clippers, how they're going to beat Houston. And DeAndre, you know, just protects the paint, and he wasn't able to play as much that last game because of foul trouble, and it made a huge difference. They have to have DeAndre Jordan on the court to make a difference like that.
Yeah. No, I agree, bro. DeAndre is like, I was talking to Hutch about this the other day. Like, to me, he may be the most athletic 7-footer in the history of the world.
Just just the way he moves. It's just like he moves like a guard, and he's 7 foot, no problem.
Well, and now he's just playing with like that confidence. Again, to me, like the Clippers just have the look right now, like that championship.
Dude,
look.
they have the depth. I know, like
no, they don't.
That's the thing that concerns me. Like you always talk about, what's Doc's kid's name?
Austin Rivers, man, I can't stand him.
Austin getting a lot of burn, and maybe not saying he's not a good player, but they on this team to get that kind of run.
Yeah.
You know, over the course of a 7-game series, throughout the playoffs, is that enough?
Right. The whole problem I have with it really is the fact that how they got there is because they traded their first rounder from a couple years back, Reggie Bullock. And they also, what else did they do to get him? Like, I just felt like they overpaid, you know, like to get Austin Rivers.
To trade for Austin
like,
Rivers is crazy. Maybe you sign him free agency for cheap or something, but
yeah. But the situation they're in now, CH, is I understand because who else is he going to play? I get it why Austin Rivers is playing. Like, and when, hey, you know, he had that game where he hit several threes. He's played okay.
Yes.
I just, you know, he's proved me wrong as far as proving that he can even fit in at this level. Because I mean, when they were playing the Spurs, I mean, that was championship level basketball, and you know, he got some solid minutes in there. But, dude, I just hate his game because he's a guard. And as a guard, you have to see open shooters. It doesn't matter if you're a great point guard. As any guard, you have to hit the open man when it's there because that's your job is to move the ball.
And he can attack the basket, so that should just be his next step as a player, right? Being making plays for somebody else because he puts the ball on the floor and attacks the basket.
He does.
You know, he's made some threes. I don't know if he's a good shooter, but, you know, he plays hard and attacks the basket. But you got to be able to pass the ball if you're going to get backup point guard minutes. You know?
No, I agree. His shot's not bad. Like
it's not bad.
It kind of looks like it's a little too far for him. Like when he shoots it, you know what I'm
it's
saying?
A stretch.
Yeah,
it's a stretch for him.
The 3 ball I'm talking about, but yeah, no, I just feel like when he penetrates, he is a good slasher. So you know that extra man is going to have to help, right? As a NBA level player, when that person comes and helps, someone gets open. As Steph Curry splashes Jays.
Stephen Curry's just hitting all kinds of ridiculous shots tonight.
Yeah, but you know. Austin Rivers, I'm never going to be a fan of Austin Rivers. I just don't like the way his demeanor is. But I am happy for him that he's been playing well in the playoffs. You know, that's really a big thing for a young player.
It's good to see the Clippers. You know, actually, it's not good to see. I'm not a Clippers fan at all.
Right, we're just happy for their success, you know?
Yeah, but to see
we're not
them
bitter Lakers fans.
Yeah, not at all. To see them, you know, evolve. You have Blake Griffin and DeAndre, these great young players you're just talking about all the time.
Right.
And then first round of the playoffs, you're out. First round of the playoffs, you're out. You know, someone gets hurt and you're out. You know, so it's good to see them take that next step.
Even when Chris Paul's got hurt.
And even when Doc Rivers, the GM, decides his only move is going to bring in Austin Rivers when they clearly lean on Matt Barnes too much. And Jamal Crawford can win you a game, but he doesn't pass the ball either. He's another one of those guys who's just out there to shoot.
Right. Which kind of brings me to my next point I wanted to talk to you about was, excuse me, we're drinking beers here, is the Rockets. So, you know, I love James Harden. I think this team was pretty deep, but I feel like 2 key injuries have really hurt them, Monty Eunice and Patrick Beverley, because Monty Eunice has really came into his own this year as an efficient scorer and kind of a finisher for them, especially when the bigs are out. But you put him in the mix, that's a nice, like one of the best front court rotations in the NBA.
And no Pat Beverley.
And then Pat Beverley is like
just
that perimeter
takes pressure
defender.
off Harden.
Exactly.
You know, and Harden just hasn't had it throughout this series. He had a great game when they needed him to. Yeah. But for whatever reason, he hasn't been able to just back Houston like he has most of the season.
Well, it's because they're playing the Clippers, who had just got off a series playing against an elite ball club and won. And they brought it for like 7 straight, 6 games. That one game they got blown out. But 6 games, LA played at a sick level, dude. And that's the thing. I think once you play that high of a basketball, like the Rockets hadn't been challenged like that yet. And then so it was like the first 2 games were like, whoa, reality check. And then all of a sudden that's 1-1, and they should have been up 2-0 at home with no Chris Paul. That was a huge opportunity that let slip in game 1 where they just like came out like flakes.
Huge.
That was ridiculous. But my point about the Rockets is that I don't want to say they're overrated, but I think it just kind of shows the dynamic of how they play. If you don't have the key players at like Patrick Beverley, it just doesn't work against elite. Like the starting five of the Clippers is elite. You're just not going to get that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Houston style play, threes or dunks. Eventually you're gonna have to mix it up and play half court. That's all great in transition, but you still need to have something better than what they brought in the half court. And Dwight Howard's actually played pretty good. Right. He's played well. Played really well.
Dwight's played great. DeAndre's outplayed him though. Not quite as on the scoring position, but just from out
all around
rebounding
impact,
and just defensively, just controlling the paint. Dwight has played really good though. Let's not take anything away from him.
But you see, Dwight just sometimes gets himself in bad position, and even Blake Howard will post him up and get a layup on him. It's not that Blake can't post up and get a bucket on anybody, but if you're Dwight Howard, you can't let him do that to you. And he just sometimes just shows bad basketball IQ and is out of position for whatever reason, or is kind of lost on a play and gets a foul, or gets ejected out of a game or something. Just something bonehead like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then they just don't play a good enough defense. Bottom line,
So do you see Mikal being a mainstay in Houston?
Like every time I watch his post-game interviews, I'm like, I like Kevin McHale.
Yeah, everyone loves Kevin McHale.
I'm like, I like what he says, But I just don't know if like the tactician, like you know what I'm saying, like of a Tom
series
Thibodeau,
management
of a Scott Brooks. Just kidding. Like
is Thibs gone too? If they
no
lose
way,
this series,
no
if they
way.
lose this series,
if they lose this series, like to me, they shouldn't. It should be a no-way situation either way. He's been squeezing like 10 more extra wins out of that team every year. And I think we all disagree with a few of the things he does, like overplaying players. But man, he's a great coach. And honestly, he's like basically invented the way the NBA plays defense right now. It's like Tom Thibodeau.
He's not going to be hurting for work if he gets canned.
Exactly.
That's for damn sure.
I mean,
everyone who has coaching jobs right now, you're the Pelicans. You're hoping something like that happens.
I feel like
even though I wouldn't do that, I mean, if you have Anthony Davis, I mean, I like to think outside the box a little more than that. I mean, I'm not saying he's not an option, but let's try and get creative here when you have a one of a kind player like that.
Right. Are the Pelicans going to mess around and hire Mark Jackson?
I hope not. I mean, I like Mark Jackson. He did well in Golden State. He's more of a defensive-minded coach. He kind of gives you these corny rah-rah speeches, though, and I just don't know if I don't know if that's the guy. I just want to get someone a little more creative offensively. If I have a once-in-a-generation player in Anthony Davis, and I don't know if Mark Jackson's going to do that. He had Steph Curry and wasn't able to get the most out of him like Steve Kerr has. Maybe you can get, what's Calipari? Reunite him with Anthony Davis, something crazy like that. I would try for something like that. It's obviously a long shot, but and if you're stuck with a guy like Thibodeau or all these other guys, you're still okay too. But because you have a guy like Anthony Davis, but he's still, is getting better too. And I'd like to see him get teamed up with an offensive mind, not just defensive guys. And they bring in guys like Ashik, and they kind of just mess up the flow on the other end too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have a weird mix of guys. I feel like they have to trade somebody.
They're going to have to make a move, and TK always talks about they're just in a tough spot. Who do you trade? They're not like there's not a lot of phone calls going out for all those guards they have overpaid,
Exactly.
And they don't have a draft pick this year, and their Ashik's a free agent, so you're going to basically just give a first-round pick away, So
that's a good point.
And I don't know if I would want Ashik back necessarily. I mean, you need some help with Anthony Davis, so maybe you could.
He's a good rotation big, but not overpaying him.
Yeah. Not a first-round pick.
No.
Oh.
I think everyone overestimated how good Ashik was a little bit when he was leaving Chicago.
Yeah. Hey, maybe that's Thibodeau, plugging in a big like him. He's able to get the most out of him. It's just the Bulls are in an interesting spot where Jimmy Butler's a free agent and could demand a max contract somewhere. You have an aging Joakim Noah and Derrick Rose continue to get hurt. So what's your direction? They obviously you want to keep Jimmy Butler, but are you going to max a max deal? If you're Chicago,
you're asking me if you max?
If you're
Jimmy
Chicago,
Butler?
you max whatever.
You absolutely
max
anything.
Jimmy
Butler. Absolutely. Yeah. He's like,
hey man, Draymond Green both. You would let either one
you
go.
have to,
max.
especially now when we know in a year after
it's going
to go up way high. Where a max contract isn't really a max contract. So, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, yes and yes. The way they impact the game, especially Jimmy B with, not to take anything away from Draymond Green, great year, but Jimmy B is probably the second or third best 2 guard in the NBA behind James Harden and possibly Klay Thompson.
Yeah. He gets to the free throw line just relentlessly, you know.
And every bit is one of the best,
one of the best two-way players.
Exactly.
You know? It's beer time.
So is Klay. But yeah, it is beer time. I'm glad you mentioned that. I think it also is time to bring back that Snoop song.
Snoop's new album,
pretty sweet.
Check it out.
I think CH and I have been huge fans of Snoop for, since we were kids.
Snoop
really
defines my early 20s for sure. The Dogfather.
So here he is. He's making beats with Pharrell now, and just singing his way
Snoop's
to.
Still puffing weed every day, probably till the day he dies. Right? I mean, I don't see Snoop ever not doing that.
Why would he stop?
It's worked out well for him.
He's done great. So what do you think about the Eastern Conference stuff? So do you think? Everyone has Cleveland to win, but man, I just feel like if Chicago comes out, gets Game 6, they could win Game 7.
Definitely, I think it's going 7. They got to get Pau Gasol back. That would surely help. I mean, it shows you how they missed him offensively. That's the thing with Thibodeau. Offensively, sometimes they're bad. Same with Scotty Brooks. Offensively, yeah, you're great at developing talent, or defensively, but if you can't go through scoring droughts, some of the best players in the league, you have to look in the mirror, Mm-hmm. And he's not. Derrick Rose shoots a lot of outside jumpers. They try and work it in a little bit, but sometimes they go through these huge scoring droughts, and you have a team like Cleveland who has LeBron James and Kyrie who can just get ISO buckets. J.R. Smith can get hot. Mm-hmm. Shumpert's played really well. Mozgov's been good for him. Cleveland's surprised me, to be honest. I'm not a LeBron fan, so I'm always looking for reasons not to root for Cleveland,
mm-hmm.
And right now, LeBron's just playing amazing, and it just shows that he's a once-in-a-lifetime player.
Well, that's
not just generation. Like LeBron is, one of the greats to ever play. You cannot deny that.
Well, and it's just like.
But will he have more rings than Kobe?
No.
That's what I'm not. I'm not to say I'm always rooting against LeBron, but I don't want him to get 5 rings.
No way. Who wants that other than anyone in Cleveland?
Or Tim Duncan to get 6. I don't want those either.
Timmy D, though, man, fuck. If they don't
respect for
LA,
Timmy D.
They probably win it, man.
Timmy D played great that series, I thought, and all season long.
Yeah.
All season long, Timmy Duncan. You had him in fantasy, and from the draft, I was like, not gonna do it. And even in 25 minutes, he gets it done. It's unreal what he gets done with limited minutes. And even after the series and during the series, you heard Clippers players, DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, both praising Tim Duncan, how he's talked to him about being a leader and just, trying to help young players, which you don't see from great players who just kind of have that edge to them and they never want to teach anyone anything. And not all of them are like that, but you have that edge to where you have to, I got here because I earned it, not because I told you something. And you still have guys like Tim Duncan that can help young players. And for whatever reason, you hear Blake and DeAndre both say it's really helped them and they're playing great. And they were playing great prior to that too. So it's not like Tim Duncan said some magical words and they're balling out of their mind right now or anything like that. But it shows you the type of guy Tim D is. It's good for the game when you have veteran Hall of Fame players that do that for the youth who could carry the NBA too.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if there's been a player who I at one point in time I hated with passion, and then to now where I have this incredible utmost respect for that you can't even hate him.
Wonder if I have that for LeBron, because right now I know LeBron's one of the greatest players to ever play, but I just don't. I can't root for him. There's something about it I just can't do it.
It's impossible.
And I understand the LeBron fans. LeBron's amazing, but I just can't do it.
Yeah,
can't do it.
It's just the way he goes about it. That's all it is for me. No one's denying his greatness on the court. But that was my point about his gravitas. Is like he's in Miami, right? Champions, leaves. They don't make the playoffs. Comes to Cleveland, a non-playoff team. Now they're the favorites to win the East, pretty much.
Lose Kevin Love.
Still doesn't matter. And like if you take LeBron off that team without Kevin Love too, that's like a bottom barrel basement team with Kyrie going 35 points a night. Like that's a bad team.
We've already seen that.
I mean, it's amazing the shift in like what he can, like the power he brings to a basketball game, and it's kind of crazy to think about. But I feel like Chicago can win this series still, man, and I really hope so. As a not even a Bulls fan, but an anti-LeBron fan, I'm really hoping for Chicago.
Oh, I'm rooting for every Cleveland miss rather than a Bulls. And it's not a fun way to watch a game, to be honest.
Hey,
but I just can't help it.
Yeah.
You know, I just can't do it.
Who do you think is who do you think defends LeBron better, Jimmy Butler or Kawhi Leonard?
Kawhi Leonard. It's a no-brainer to me. Jimmy Butler's actually had problems with him. When they run that high pick and roll, LeBron does whatever he wants on Jimmy Butler. Whatever he wants. Not saying he can't do that with Kawhi too, but for whatever reason, and maybe it's that system, but when that high pick and roll comes, Jimmy Butler has no chance. And LeBron's balled out of his mind against Jimmy Butler. And it's taken a little bit of his offense away. He had a big game last night, Jimmy did, but it wears him out. If you look at it, they play Jimmy 40 minutes, and they need him to score 20, and they need him to keep LeBron from going nuts, and it wears him out. And you see him late in games, those threes, some of them aren't even close from Jimmy, you know?
Yeah, he's a tough guard. I mean, LeBron is pretty hard to guard. And then you're probably trying to get your own buckets on the opposite side of the court. And you're right.
And they just don't have the ball movement either. Like,
No, they don't.
The buckets are on your own kind of a little bit on, like, some cuts and stuff like that, but...
To me, that's where one thing about Thibodeau, or at least his coaching staff, could improve on is, okay, so Thibodeau is obviously the defensive specialist expert. Let's have him absolutely call every single defensive play, every strategy there. But let's bring on an offensive genius, and let's get like just some more magic for Chicago, because they have so many guys who can handle the ball. Like their posts, Joakim Noah and Pau Gasol are both great passers, dude. Then you've got Jimmy Buckets, who's a great two guard, and then you've got Derrick Rose. Like there's just a lot of handling on that team, and there's not quite enough shooting, and there's not near enough ball movement.
And for whatever reason in this series, Aaron Brooks has been a non-factor. He hasn't got
playoffs.
Minutes. And he really goes with Kirk Heinrich, even when he goes in that second unit and he goes small. And it really hurt him on an offensive rebound late in that last game. And they have Kirk Heinrich, Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler. And some of that's because of that Powell injury, and Taj wasn't playing. So, but they're going small, and they don't even have Mirotic or Aaron Brooks in there. And if you're going to go small, you're giving up a lot on defense, then you better be dynamic on offense. And at least Aaron Brooks and Mirotic give you that. And with Noah in there and Mirotic to stretch the floor, I know Mirotic struggles on defense, and that's why Thibodeau only plays him, rarely, at least in this series.
Yeah. He hasn't played great in the playoffs either.
But,
it's his first experience.
You're playing 15 minutes. It's hard to get in a rhythm, I'm sure.
Totally agree. I'm not saying he's not a good player.
But he sticks with Kirk Heinrich to the end, and I think Kirk Heinrich's a solid veteran. You can rely on him. But
let's get some minutes for Tony Snell.
Sometimes you need to try different things.
Let's get Tony Snell out there.
If you're going through 5-minute scoring droughts, let's put Tony Snell in there.
Right,
let's put Aaron Brooks in there. Let's put Mirotic. Guys who can hit a couple threes in a row. Guys who can get hot.
I mean, he's been playing Aaron Brooks, but he doesn't play Tony Snell. And it's like, I mean, to me, he's the second most athletic player on their team, maybe third most behind Jimmy and Derrick. So it's like,
and Dunleavy's been solid. He hasn't shot great.
He's kind of a non-factor.
He's had a good first game, and then he gets killed on defense.
Totally.
They're not as good a defensive team as you see Thibodeau as some Bulls teams have been. They're not. They're just not.
Right, and I haven't been impressed with Dunleavy really at all. Like, I know he's a great shooter, but he's just been non-aggressive. As a good shooter, like, make him pay, like Kyle Korver. Like, Dunleavy is damn near one of the best shooters in the NBA, but he isn't always aggressive.
No.
He's just kind of like, oh, I'll shoot it when it's there. I'm like, bro, dude, like, shoot that shot and shoot it with confidence, in my opinion. Just watching him, it's like, dude, like, this is playoffs. Like, are you even, like, excited?
But it's just like, well, and if you're not playing well and things aren't working, let's try something new.
Right.
If it's not working, try something new. If you're going through these scoring droughts with these same lineups, do something different,
And Kirk just looks old right now, doesn't he?
He just...
Is he not? Is he all the way healthy? Because he just doesn't look like...
He doesn't look healthy.
Kind of like how Tony Parker was looking. It was like, you can just tell he's not right now, Like,
but he's always that way. He's always playing like that.
Yeah. A little, like, hodgepodge, roly-poly kind of player.
That's his game. He makes you punish for disrespecting him,
Yeah. Yeah.
What about some of the other series? Pierce has been great. Wall just played tonight, I think. And... it sounded like Horford hit a game winner. Right? I didn't get a chance to watch any of that one, so I'm looking forward to watching that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either. I think Atlanta wins. I can't even believe John Wall's playing. He broke 4 or 5 bones in his hand, and I was like, why are they not calling him out indefinitely? But apparently they're small bones and very, very small fractures. But I mean, it's broken bones, so it's kind of like
it's your franchise player.
Yeah. I don't know. I was kind of surprised by that. But apparently, if you can wrap it up and you go, I know how that is. Playoff time.
Sometimes you got to do it,
For sure. But, I just don't think, and you know what? I've been impressed. Bradley Beal's really stepped up. His numbers are sick. His numbers are every bit as good as James Harden's have been the last few games.
So do you think that carries over for Bradley Beal? Is that something you see panning out in the future? I know
he's young,
been inconsistent. Injuries. The injury things is probably the biggest red flag for him. You figure the game, because of that, some of his game is hurt because of that. So if he can just reel off a couple seasons in a row, who knows?
He has been very injury prone. Did you see that Paul Pierce article or the interview when he was talking about those guys and Otto Porter and stuff? Well, I thought Paul brought up a good point because he was just talking about these guys want it. These guys got to get mad. He's like, if Otto Porter got mad, he'd be amazing. That's what he said about Otto Porter. And he was just like, with Bradley and these guys, he's like, because he was talking about Darren Williams, and he was talking about how Joe Johnson, like good players, but he was like, I thought Darren Williams, fire. I thought Darren Williams, he said, quote, I was like, I think Darren Williams was an MVP caliber player. And then when I went to Brooklyn, I realized he wasn't. As far as just the way he would carry himself, the way he would lead the team, the way he'd be consistent with his play and his swag. And I thought it was a really interesting point. But then that kind of led into he kind of got into Bradley Beal about how, Bradley Beal just doesn't understand yet either, like how good he could be. He's like, same with John. He's like, John's figuring it out, but he's like, Bradley and Otto, like they don't even understand how good they can be. So, and that's coming from, Paul Pierce, who has one of the most all-time swags.
The fucking truth.
You know what I mean? So
he is swag.
But, I thought it was a good point. But to me, Bradley Beal is not necessarily gotten better this year as far as numbers. His numbers were pretty down. But to me, in the playoffs, he looks like he's gotten better from last year. So if he can continue that upward growth and stay healthy, he has a great trajectory.
Is there a situation where you would draft Bradley Beal again? Because I know you drafted him in one of our leagues this year.
And then just flipped him.
For
Teague.
For Teague.
Which was a big come up at the time, but then Teague's numbers dropped. But then Bradley Beal, what I did is I traded Bradley Beal and Crawford for him, knowing that Crawford is kind of a one-trick pony, two-trick pony. And then
hurts you FG.
Right. Kind of hurts you, exactly. And then he got hurt and Beal got hurt. So it was actually a huge come-up for me, but not to rub it in or anything. But in comparison, I'm not even sure who I'm comparing, actually.
Bradley Beal.
To who?
To Jeff Teague.
Oh, I mean, to me, Jeff Teague's better. I mean,
yeah.
It's not even close.
Oh, yeah. When you get something from Jamal, but, I mean, Bradley Beal's always shown signs of being a great shooter, dynamic playmaker.
Exactly.
He gets your assists, so fantasy goodies at the shooting guard spot. You need guys like that to win, to take pressure off your studs, to help out. Mm-hmm. But he always seems to get that fracture or shoulder or something, so hopefully he can figure it out like Paul says. Can you teach getting the fire, though? Is that something you can teach? Are you born with that? Do you just figure it out? I mean, we'll see. I think it's kind of something that you are, and maybe you can develop some professionalism and be more consistent. But to have that fire, you kind of just have to have that internally. I don't know if you get that.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think you can learn some of that stuff for sure. But, I mean, you can't, you don't learn Russell Westbrook's mentality, he just has it, people like that. But, I mean, so I'm going to go with Atlanta and Chicago.
I like it.
And then I'm going
to just out of pure can't even pick Cleveland.
I laugh as I say it. And then I'm going to take Golden State in just a thrilling series, in 7 games. And LA Clippers. And then I'm honestly, my pick to win the NBA championship this year is LA Clippers. Once they beat the Spurs and they played that well against the Spurs for that long and they just flat out beat them, I was like, wow. And then when they come out, you could see the level of play that they were playing compared to Houston. Houston's playing good ball. They just smacked Dallas. But Dallas was compared to a first round matchup compared to playing San Antonio.
Yeah.
Playing
for
Dallas,
the West, that was
crazy.
a bye, really.
Well, they really fell off.
In Portland, those two teams just fell off towards the end of the year.
They did.
But that's my pick, and I think LA Clippers, man. I'm a Lakers fan. I hate saying this, but I'm happy for Chris Paul if he wins, obviously. But I think this is the best shot he's ever had.
Definitely.
So
I'm gonna go Atlanta, and I'm gonna go Cleveland, even though I'm rooting for Chicago. Yeah. I just do think Game 7 at home, LeBron has just been too good, and Chicago's just been too inconsistent. Yeah. But I won't be rooting for that. And then I'm gonna go with Memphis to beat Golden State. No matter what happens tonight, they're gonna rally at the grindhouse and find a way to win a Game 7, even though it's in Oakland. And if they do that, they've always proven they can match up with the Clippers.
Okay.
Zebo and Marc Gasol against Blake and DeAndre. You have Conley and Tony Allen. Jeff Green to match up with Matt Barnes, J.J. Redick, and Chris Paul. It's going to be a slugfest series, and I think Memphis is better at it than the Clippers. And then Memphis would play Cleveland. And then I'm saying Memphis, and I'm buying a Tony Allen jersey.
That's sweet.
I'm getting a Tony Allen jersey the day it happens.
That would make me happy. If Memphis wins, to me, that'd be a huge win for all those kind of grinder type folks who say that grinding type
the
of basketball
NBA, this would be the worst thing for the NBA, probably, not having Stephen Curry or Chris Paul in the finals with LeBron. You want that superstar draw for the NBA.
Right.
But, hey, Memphis does it a different style. They play that Baltimore Ravens, Tony Dungy, D basketball.
Yeah.
No one wants to play that way. No one wants to compete against teams like that. And they beat you up the way they beat you up. They won't go small.
Zebo hit a
They'll
three
go
tonight.
Zebo
Zebo just hit a three.
Zebo might just hit a three. Zebo might just hit a three.
It's halftime. But, hey, so what happens? Tell me this. If Memphis loses tonight, do you still pick Memphis?
Yes, because they're winning at the Grindhouse. And I still think they can win in Game 7. Maybe Golden State comes out a little pressing. Steph Curry and Klay have done that in games prior. At least started out slow. They've gotten hot at some point, even against the Pelicans late in games. And they've proven that even in Memphis. Obviously, Golden State's the favorite to win that. But I still believe in Memphis. The way they play, they'll always be in games. Even though they've gotten blown out the series. But in a big Game 7, those guys have been in so many battles together. I think they can find a way to win even on the road.
Yeah.
And in the Grindhouse Game 6, that place is going to be crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's...
And then against the Clippers, they match up well with them. They really do.
They definitely do. I mean, they beat them in the past.
They beat them in the past.
2 of the last 3 years, right?
Yeah, and I think Clippers have won recently. But and that'd be a good series, too.
But Memphis can beat anybody because, a few years
Just
back when
the
Zebo was
play.
balling, they beat San Antonio. They beat L.A. They beat OKC. So, I mean, they can beat pretty much anybody if they play well enough in a series. To me, it would be a huge validation for Michael Conley as well. I call him Mike Conley.
He's
no one respects him.
One of the more
no one
underrated
talks
players.
about him. Everyone says he's underrated, but he's just
not
a
at this
baller.
point.
He's just a baller.
He's just not
dude.
at this point.
Everyone knows it, but no one really talks about him. He doesn't get his due. He's kind of like LaMarcus. Like, no one talks about LaMarcus. Easily one of the best power forwards in the NBA. No one really talks about him. So, who do you think is the most shafted player in the NBA as far as
Respect?
not respect, but just cred? Like Carmelo Anthony, right? He gets so much credibility as a great player, and he's awesome. But then you got LaMarcus, who absolutely had a phenomenal, way better year than Carmelo had, and no one talks about him.
Yeah, Carmelo gets
You know what I'm
all the
saying?
love. He's superstar.
Like, how many times do you see him on SportsCenter compared to LA?
Constantly. I mean, just constantly. That's a really good question. I like. That's a really tough question. And there's
a few.
This player isn't a superstar player, and he's not a max player, but I think he's undervalued. Is Chris Middleton?
Oh, dude,
in
that's
Milwaukee.
a great one. That's a great one.
He doesn't
earned
fit
it.
kind of necessarily what you're asking, like that underrated maybe superstar type guy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because he's not that, but he was the most consistent player on that Bucks team all year long. And when he was playing well, they started reeling off games, even when they made that bad trade for Carter Williams.
He had a couple.
He's got size.
Yeah,
he can play
game
shooting
winners.
guard. He can play small forward. He can shoot. He's gonna get paid this year. I'm looking forward to see what they do. I did read a thing that maybe he'd be getting around $12 million, which for him's got to be a nice raise. I have no idea what his deal is.
He's on a low.
But I'm guessing that's a huge raise.
He's a second-round pick, right?
He's a second. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah, no, and don't quote me on
And
that.
I know he's
but I think he
restricted.
was.
He's a restricted free agent,
Yeah.
so who knows? But
Yeah, no, Chris Middleton, definitely. That's a great one. There's a few players that I want to throw in this conversation just who I don't think are going to get enough credibility, and it's just because we play fantasy, and so we know about these guys, and, we know about, like who has amazing stats and no one hears about. So I'm going to throw out like Nick Vucevic.
I was thinking that.
Because no one ever even talks, like they talk about best centers and they say Mark and they say that. And like Nick isn't in that conversation yet, but he's damn near in that second tier with like the Drummonds and the Goberts and like the other young guys who are coming up.
And that kind of separates Vucevic from those guys is he's able to hit that 10-foot jump shot from the elbow.
Wet. He did a wet mid-range jumper.
He can post left. He can post right. As far as fantasy-wise, his percentages are really good, which the other guys aren't. The one thing he doesn't do that the other guys do is protect the rim.
Yeah.
He's
Gobert's
able to.
elite.
He's a really good rebounder, but Gobert and Drummond do it at the highest level. But they hurt you in other things too. So Vucevic, what a good trade for Orlando. You could have had. Dwight Howard has gone down his crazy path,
Right.
and then you're able to bring in Vucevic and got the best end. And Philly had who Philly get Bynum and.
Oh my God, dude, nightmare for Philly.
And at the time, I was thinking, damn,
traded
I
Iguodala.
couldn't believe we traded Andrew Bynum.
Yeah.
We're getting Dwight Howard. I was hyped. We got Steve Nash. And that was just a fucking terrible idea. Just didn't pan out.
Didn't work
It
out.
just didn't pan out.
Everyone, Nash made a documentary. Dwight went
that's about all
to
he
Houston.
did. He sabotaged. And then we lose Chris Paul. Before that, it was like, oh, wow.
That was kind of the beginning of a roller coaster for Lakers fans when Chris Paul got denied. And then here we are, second round of the playoffs. Chris Paul's balling out next to Blake Griffin. Not that it would have been better for Chris, because obviously our team sucks.
You're right.
But
the dynamic would have been different. The personnel would
all
be
the people who
completely
would be
different.
coming potentially to the LA.
What they were trying to ask Kobe to do at his age shouldn't have been done.
It was ridiculous. And he was still doing it, and that's why he got hurt, though, man. He was forcing it, though. It was career. Here we are in a Lakers
we should
rant.
have our annual Laker future rant here.
Oh, man.
What are you hoping for the lottery? Obviously we're hoping for number one, but let's say it's not number one. What other guys do you like there?
If one of the two bigs slips,
What, Parker
and Okafor.
Okay, besides Parker and Okafor, after Parker, so let's say Lakers get a 3 or 4 guy. Who's your next guy from there?
And that's what I was kind of saying. I've been hearing good things about this 2 guard from, is it Wisconsin? No, not Wisconsin. Ohio State, excuse me. And then Moutier from overseas. I guess those are the projected guys we're supposed to get. And to me, we do need a guard because we got Randall last year. And, we don't have good bigs by any means. But to me, that one free agent I think we have potential to get who would actually want on our team is Kevin Love. And to me, it's almost like either flip Randall and take Love or put both of them together and draft a 2 guard.
Draft a 2 guard. And put Love at the center kind of thing?
No, not necessarily. I don't think Randall ready to be like a really good starting 4 in the West. I don't think so. You know what I'm saying? So let's have Love just do his thing. Randall can be a really good rotation big for us. Maybe we can't play those small on us, but I don't think we can because Kevin Love can't play defense really in the paint. But Jordan Hill, right? We're gonna re-sign him apparently, or at least
we're gonna
re-up
give
him
10
on his
million
contract.
player option for some reason. Not quite sure why we're doing that.
Team option.
Oh, it's a team option.
That's because we have
him,
to
but
spend
we're
money on
not.
somebody. That's why we're doing it. I'm saying we're the Lakers management.
So are they
That's
going
why
to
the Lakers
go,
are doing it.
do you want to see Rajon Rondo? We talk about this every podcast.
No. Blow my brains off. Do not sign Rondo.
Is there a scenario where you see that happening, though?
Yeah, there's a scenario that happens. It's
I
a
just
nightmare.
hope,
it's a nightmare
unless
to wake
he's
up
getting
from.
like vet min, which ain't happening.
Oh, talk about pure J.R. Smith maneuver. Rondo lost himself with that playoff debacle. He lost himself seriously.
And then the injuries too. He's clearly not the same player. TK talks about it all the time. He doesn't want to shoot and he doesn't want to get to the free throw line. The way he plays, that it obviously shows he doesn't want to do either one of those things. So, in this style of play, and as deep as the point guard position is, it's dangerous. You got to be careful what you're paying for unless he wants a big time discount.
He wouldn't be surprised me if he kind of took that Iverson route where he obviously was still ready to play basketball and good enough to, but he won't be able to accept a certain role on a certain team and he'll just leave the NBA, which is sad to say, but
go to China.
No, like Marbury, for instance, he's had great success in China. In fact, he just won the championship this year.
Yes. That was Mudiay on his team. I know he had talked about how he liked Mudiay's game.
I think
he thought he'd be a really good player. He was kind of a tweener right now, but at his age, he kind of had a lot of, he didn't really have an identity as far as like who he reminded him of. He had a lot of little different players, but couldn't quite shoot yet. And a tweener are never two things you want to hear.
Just the highlights I saw. Like all I saw was highlights.
Yeah.
But just the way he moved, he was like strong.
He's got size, he's
and
athletic.
he could hop. He wasn't a great shooter, but he was slashing. Just kind of reminded like a young Bledsoe. Who knows if he can play defense like Bledsoe? Because not many can.
I'm curious to see what the Suns do. Where do they try and add? Are you gonna re-sign Brandon Knight? Do the Lakers go
That was
after
such a weird
Brandon
trade.
Knight?
I don't even know what they're doing.
I would much rather see Brandon Knight as a Laker.
See, that'd be a great signing for us because you can get him for a decent price. He's a good player. Because to me, this is the year, like, if we get a good draft pick, we need to add a good free agent too. Because you can't just have these good draft picks and then not have any veteran leadership or any other good players. Because what you do is you set that losing mentality. Kobe will be there and he won't let that happen, but Kobe's not going to be the same player. It's not even that he's the same player. It's just he should never have that same job and role on his team. You know, like, it's not fair to him. Even though he wants it, a good coach would just calm him down. But he can contribute. To me, Kobe should come in next year if he's healthy and average like 16 points really efficiently and trying to get like 8 to 9 assists.
Are you going to draft? Would you draft Kobe?
Yeah, but not in the second round like I did last year.
Third round?
No.
Fourth? Who goes before the fourth? Someone will always take him before the fourth. There's always too many Laker fans for that to happen. Right.
Someone will take him. It might be me. But it's not going to be the second. Because last year, I mean, he proved it. He was still able to put up that 25, 5, and 5. But not quite as long, you know.
Let's kind of switch to some fantasy here. Who are some of your sleepers for next year? It's hard to say with free agency. We're probably too early. As far as sleeper, you know, a guy you kind of people are sleeping on, maybe like a Bradley Beal type guy who there's a lot of baggage.
Like, who's going to make that jump?
Yeah, there's a lot of baggage, you know, like, but the potential's there.
Yeah. There's a lot of good players in the NBA right now who can make that jump. You know, I think it always usually comes down to like who has that role on a good team, and like who gets like, because every year there's like someone who jumps out of nowhere, right? Like this year, like Gobert and Whiteside.
Out of nowhere, Gobert and Whiteside came out and were fantasy game changers,
right?
And who would have saw that coming? You know,
Whiteside no one even knew Whiteside's
playing
name
at the rec center before he got the phone call.
That's a crazy story.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But there's a lot of good young players who can make that jump. To me, like, it's got to be one of those like third or fourth year
like
guys,
Oladipo kind of guys. Oladipo had a great year.
Candidate for this. You answered the question.
Maybe you take. I don't know where you would take him. Third. That's probably early for Oladipo.
I don't know, man. His numbers were fantastic.
I mean, he's a point guard, shooting guard. He gives you assists, points, steals.
He started to hit a little bit of threes.
He hits a little threes. That's kind of. I mean, maybe his percentages are probably low from the field goal.
It's okay. I think it was like 43, 44.
But a young team with Elfrid Payton running the show. He's not a scorer. He's definitely going to look to pass the ball. Vucevic, what do they do with Tobias Harris? If there's no Tobias Harris, that's a great option there.
Yeah.
He's definitely. Him and Middleton, for some reason, are just guys that can make such a big impact in fantasy, and you can get them in the middle rounds and just round off your team so perfectly.
Yeah.
I mean, Middleton's obviously probably much later. He's not from you take Tobias over Middleton.
Yeah.
But if you look at the stats, actually, Middleton's
team,
numbers are really good.
They're awesome because he's a really elite steals guy.
And Harris had a run where he was amazing, and then he had some injuries, and then kind of minutes.
Yeah.
And then coaching changed, so his numbers are kind of, you can't quite just look at the overall season numbers for him, I don't think.
No, to me it was his role. Like,
it's a good point.
I couldn't believe
what were they asking him to do?
Right.
When he was coming off the bench and he was healthy, it was weird.
It was really weird. I mean, because to me he's like your second, third best player.
And he was averaging 18 and 8.
Exactly.
I believe, and with the 3 steals, blocks.
I remember I was like, would you rather have Duncan or Tobias Harris?
And I wouldn't make that deal.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't make that deal. I had Tobias Harris, and it costed me. I really would have much rather have Duncan. But I stayed true with Tobias because he was 18 and 8, and then small forward is such a important position in fantasy. If you don't have a guy who can neutralize a LeBron or a Durant, you know, guys like this year who stepped up, like a Rudy Gay, took his game to the next level. Jimmy Butler took his game to the next level. Gordon Hayward, those type of small forward. Kevin Durant was injured.
Yeah,
you're gonna throw him into the mix next year. You have guys like Draymond Green, you know, guys you can take there too. Oh, he's probably take him third round, maybe second.
Draymond?
Round. Yeah, depending on his role, I guess. If he were to go to the Lakers, maybe.
No, he's staying in Golden State.
Max, they're just gonna pay him.
I think they should.
So what's Golden State? Do you keep Harrison Barnes too? Do you believe in him?
I think you run this team back, right?
You just run everything back.
I mean, it's maybe figure out a way to flip David Lee. I want to talk about San Antonio though, dude, because you're talking about Tobias Harris. To me, I've said this 3-4 times.
San Antonio is going to get Tobias Harris. I just have this weird like feeling like I can see deja vu or something.
Tobias
if it doesn't
Harris,
happen,
LaMarcus
rub it in.
Aldridge.
If it doesn't happen, rub it in.
Kawhi Leonard,
I
Danny
just feel
Green
like,
type.
man, everyone sleeps on Tobias, dude, and it's like San Antonio always gets those guys who are like undervalued. Kind of like Josh Smith this year, how Houston just jumped on him when he got traded, and look at him now, or when he got released. Excuse me, not traded.
I mean, look what San Antonio does with guys like Bellinelli. I mean, can come out and make play. Danny Green, Patty Mills. They come in there and they have this system.
Boris Diaw.
And Tobias definitely fits that system, and they can go small.
That's what I mean, because he can.
Kawhi's
help
a versatile
Kawhi out
defender.
He can hit a three. He can also play big. He doesn't have any vision. Like, he'll have to work on that. But to me, he's just a type of player that would fit there, that Coach Popovich could make really good.
Yeah, Coach Popovich can make
what I'm
real
saying?
good.
You know what I'm saying?
Coach Popovich knows what he's doing.
Right.
The way they move the ball, it's just fucking unreal. The way and Boris Diaw, he gets the most out of guys like Boris Diaw, Bellinelli, Patty Mills to round out playing around unselfish guys like Duncan and Kawhi. Mm-hmm. And Kawhi doesn't say a word. There's very few superstars you play where he doesn't even say anything.
Right.
Even like timeout, he just goes straight to the bench.
Yeah,
people high five him, he just sits there. It's unreal.
It is.
But that's just who he is.
Yeah.
And I like that about him.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
I just wish in fantasy it would be that 20-point, 25-point scorer every single night.
Right.
And I don't know if he is. I don't know if he has that personality, or maybe that's just because they haven't gave him that role too.
No, they have. Popovich talked about it a lot. I also read a post-season interview with Popovich. Very insightful. I mean, anytime you can get a little bit of Popovich.
Oh, Popovich not telling you to go to hell during one of those little 5-second interviews.
He never
gives
you anything there. No. Never gives, which is so intrusive.
Why do they even have that? If you know it's going to be that shitty and bad TV, like, why even do it?
Right. But to me, it was just cool because Popovich was just giving Tim Duncan, he's talking about how Tim Duncan just amazes everybody, and how pretty much after they lost to LA, how pretty much everyone in the locker room just felt bad that they didn't perform well enough for Timmy D, because they're like, Timmy D's the oldest player on the team and he was the best player. And so that was basically like what everyone thought and felt, and everyone, I guess, was like crying and apologizing to Timmy D. And
wow,
it was pretty cool to like kind of hear
all that respect that he gets.
Yeah, exactly. But Popovich was just making great point after great point, and he was just talking about like, we're gonna retool, is what his words were, is retool, which to me means guys
Tobias
like
Harris.
and like
Chris Middleton.
We're going after Marcus
guys,
Aldridge, things like that. If they put LA next to Kawhi with an aging Tim Duncan who can teach some things and maintain that center spot, and you go get Tobias Harris to help out on the wing. I mean, even if they get LA, they're amazing. They're their favorite instantly, But Ginobili looked old. I don't want to say Tony Parker looked old because that's what everyone was saying. I didn't think that was fair. He was hurt.
He's always kind of hurt, though.
But, dude, maybe. But, I mean, remember 2 years ago when they were playing Miami? Or not 2 years ago. Last year when they won. He was balling, bro.
Balling.
This was a year ago. So let's not act like he's too old to play really good basketball, Because that's just the media. Everyone jumps on and off players super fast, But, CH the last 6 years, everyone just Westbrook, second fiddle. He can't do this. He takes away from Durant. As soon as Durant gets hurt and he does this crazy stuff, it's like, Westbrook, he might be an MVP candidate. He's pretty amazing. It's like, oh my God.
So to end the podcast, I'm going to ask you a question, PZ. You just finished this. I'm going to start it out. You just finish it. Oklahoma City will do what next year?
Go to the conference finals.
Will they have an MVP on their team?
Yeah.
Which one?
Kevin Durant.
KD.
Yeah.
No Russ.
Russ will be there.
You won't get the MVP, though?
No.
Ever?
To me, Westbrook's that guy, kind of like Kobe, where he's just so like, what's the word?
Fucking dynamic.
Yeah. He's kind of
dominating.
Like, he's like Kobe, where you either love him or you hate him. And not enough people love him. It's like where LeBron is. He's pretty much unanimously loved because he doesn't do anything wrong and, all that stuff. Whereas he's a little more edgy. Westbrook doesn't care if you like him. He'll call you out. He'll say mean things. He doesn't give a shit. So I don't know if he'll ever win MVP. But in my opinion, he's a top 3, top 4 player in the NBA and has been for a while.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Hands down.
You can't even question it.
No.
But next year, yeah, I think if Ibaka, to me, they are the best team in the West if they're healthy. Like, even after the James Harden trade, Westbrook, Ibaka, and Durant, that's the best three in the West. Like, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, amazing three. Timmy D,
Steph Curry,
Clay, Draymond, that's sick. There's some good ones out there, but that three, because Westbrook and KD, 2 of the top 5. No other team has 2 of the top 5. You know what I'm saying? There's maybe a team with 2 of the top 15 with like Kyrie.
Yeah,
and LeBron.
there's a few. Maybe with that.
James and Dwight are 2 of the top 20, 15 maybe. But man, KD and Westbrook, there's no one like them. And then if you threw, let's not even get into that Harden trade. Next year, they go to the conference finals. I want to say that.
OKC.
If they don't win a championship though, dude, like
wins
that's
a
bad news
championship
for them. You think so?
I want them. I want
them
it to
to so bad.
I want it to happen. I want them to win. But I also want Russell Westbrook to be a Laker.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't happen, hey, the grass might be greener, Russ.
Yeah.
The grass might be greener. Let's come to LA.
I don't think it will. It is.
It's sunny out
it's
there.
So much
all the
better
time.
out in LA.
Oh, that's home. Come back home.
All right, CH. Well, thanks for having me on, buddy.
From Pop the Chunk Sports, this is CH. Thanks for joining the Passing Screen Away podcast. We'll catch you next time.
Come get your moon rocks. I am a G. It's time to spark up some.